County. I didn't know I was gonna be recorded, but, I've been in this position since December 1 of, 2018, I think, yeah, 2018, so going on 5 years. To my left here, we have Commissioner Deb Hadcock, I think knows a lot of you guys, and then, your district commissioner is Travis Lasker here. And the guy that you really want to throw tomatoes at is right back here. He's our new guy. He's our wall foreman. What's that?
Yeah, there's plenty of targets.
Colton Cetus. I always think I'm gonna slaughter his last name, so. Hang on. So what we're here to talk about today is proposed road maintenance designation. So thank you everybody for coming to this. This was an idea of Travis back probably a year ago now. Yeah, actually about a year ago, July, I think 14th, July 27th is when we updated the ordinance, and I think Chance and a few of you guys were at that meeting, and the subsequent meetings after that. So, why we're here today, I guess, is, we finally did the work. We did a lot of research on section line roads that are out there in the county that don't have a designation. By state statute, any and all section lines, if they're not in a township, municipality, or a road district, fall under the county highway jurisdiction. So that's one of the things that kind of prompted us to start looking at this is, okay, well, there's a lot of section lines out there. Are they townships? Are they ours? Are we doing the maintenance on the things that we're supposed to be doing the maintenance on? So with that, we, as part of the ordinance, and in state statute, you have full maintenance, minimal maintenance, and no maintenance, right? So, as part of the ordinance, and you can see it there, and I think I didn't print off nearly enough PowerPoints, but if you want a PowerPoint, get your contact information over there and I can get it to you. And we can get it printed out. So basically, full maintenance roads will be maintained per the county highway department policy. To the best of our abilities as manpower and time allow. Minimum maintenance roads, will be maintained basically, hopefully like they've always been. And then the snow removal is the biggest change in the minimum maintenance is the 6 inches versus the 4 inches. And then the no maintenance, is the removal of man-made obstructions. So no maintenance is exactly what that says, no maintenance. The way we kind of picked that out or kind of went about deciding which roads are which is, and it's arbitrary, right? We picked a number, 10 houses, okay? 10 houses is about 90 trips per day per house, on a given road if it's serving 10 houses. And if you had a chance to look at the maps over here, each of those maps has a traffic volume or a ADT is what we call it, average daily traffic count. It's on all of those maps, and I've got those maps at the end here. So again, these maps aren't set in stone, right? That's why we're here. We're here to talk about it, kind of what our thought process was, and hear from you guys what your thought process was. I know I've talked to several people, and there's a lot of discontent about how the roads have been maintained the past, call it 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever the number might be, right? And I understand that. I know Colton understands that. We can maybe take those calls or take those comments at the end, but that's really not what we're necessarily here to talk about today. So the goals, as everybody knows, everything's going up in cost. You guys, fuel's going up, cost of grain's going up, cost of cattle going up, cost of truck parts is going up, cost of trucks are going up. Everything's getting more expensive. Well, county's budget is pretty much, as these guys can attest this year during budget hearings, it's pretty much, it's fixed, right? We don't get a whole lot of extra money each year to maintain buildings, roads, all of that stuff. I know we did just pass the wheel tax, which we're very thankful for. Even with that extra dollars, I had to cut about $3 million worth of projects that need to get done out of the budget for 2024. So everything is just more expensive. A culvert replacement that would have cost probably $200,000 4 or 5 years ago is now $500,000, $750,000 to get it done. So everything's costing more. So what our goal and what our thought process was when we were looking at this, and this took several meetings and several conversations with commissioners and our staff and county planning staff, is how do we make our dollars go further, right? And benefit the most number of people. So to us, that means focusing on your major farm to market roads or your major roads that everybody uses. So to me out here, and I've traveled a lot of these roads, you can travel up to Zeb just more times than I care to count. Creighton Road, Kelly Hill Road, Pedro Road, Quinn Road. I mean, those are just some of the roads that the focus needs to be on, right? Because everybody uses those. It shows it in the traffic count, it shows it in the number of houses along those roads. And then we also, for some reason, whatever the reason might be, we maintain some drive or some roads into people's houses. And as a Pennington County taxpayer myself, I don't know that that's the correct thing to be doing, right? Why should the county be plowing and be maintaining a road with somebody's ranch or residence? However it came about, I don't think it's right. County commissioners don't necessarily think it's right, so try and spread that wealth or spread our resources over where they're gonna do the most good. And then the biggest thing that brought up ordinance 14 is the new developments in the last 2 years, right? A lot of section lines have been being brought onto the system. So by state statute, those section lines are ours. The commission needed a way to designate what those roads are. The county, I mean, we've got 838 miles of road currently, right? 450 of those which are gravel, and about 200 of those gravel roads are here in the Wall division. So when they are doing the development outside of Rapid City and putting the section line in, county highway doesn't have the resources to go maintain that. So they needed an avenue to designate those roads as either no maintenance or minimum maintenance, or determine that they want to maintain them full when they get to a certain number of residences. This is just some cost comparisons. I got a lot of these numbers from LTAP. You'll see some of our numbers as well. This is just the cost for crushing gravel, right? The royalty cost, I think the most we paid is $1.50 in recent years. Most of the time we pay about $1 a ton. The crushing costs are up 50%. You know, they went from $3.84 to $4.34 from just in the last 10 years. Hauling gravel, as many of you know, we're hauling millings right now, right? The cost of that is 38 cents per ton mile. So again, almost double. Lay down the gravel, wages aren't getting any cheaper, fuel's not getting any cheaper, and the iron's not getting any cheaper either. So that's almost double, not quite. And then mag chloride, which we don't do a whole lot of. We have that mag policy in place. Equipment costs, truck chassis, right? 2012 truck, as many of you probably know, was about $82,000 for just a bare truck and chassis. The one that we just bought, the commission approved, was $152,900, so $153,000. So those costs have nearly doubled. Blade, when I started here, I think the first blade we bought in 2019 was $317,000. We just ordered for delivery in January. It was $445,000. So the wheel loader, again, doubled. Corrugated metal pipe, cost per foot, again, you can look down the line here, and the cost is nearly double. So what that means for us, right? I mean, if the costs are doubling, that just means we're getting to do less and less work. Because our budget isn't doubling, you know, like a contractor can make up for these prices, whereas the county can't, right? We just have to choose to do less or be more wise with our tax dollars. Snow removal costs, you can see it's broken down by 18 was about $1 million. 19, as many of you will know, was the wettest year on record, and that was our most expensive snow removal cost year in the recent past. 2020 was down a little bit. 21 was up, you know, about $1 million. So it runs about $1 million on average, depending on the year. Snow removal policy is in here. I don't know if you guys can read that or not, but it's on our website also under the county highway. So this is where I'm no good with technology sometimes. Let's see here. Hopefully that's better. So what is the definition of a full maintenance? So when we updated our ordinance 14, we had to define what is full maintenance. So what that means is hopefully we're blading on a schedule, and hopefully we've gotten a schedule, and I'm just gonna apologize for this spring, right? We've been focusing on Sage Creek Road, trying to get that road ready for a chip seal this year. So we haven't treated our roads as they should, if you would agree. I mean, we should be out there more often, but this year has kind of been an anomaly. Wall Division has 205 miles of gravel, so what that means is 50 miles plus per blade, right? So, and on average, our blades are supposed to be traveling 3 to 5. I know some people will argue that, right? You'll see them doing 20, 25, but hopefully they're not doing that with the blade down, and they're actually they're not maintaining it. That they're supposed to be doing 3 to 5 miles a day, so that's why it's so important that we got on that schedule. And that will, I'll admit, that changed from years prior, right? We had some leadership change, both in our front office in Rapid and with Colton. We were of the mindset that we were only going to blade when we had rain, right? And now that's not the case. We're going to try and get on the schedule, maintain these roads on an actual schedule, and be out there with these blades, with these $500,000 piece of equipment, putting them to work for you guys. And then mowing in the spring and fall. Mowing is actually only mandated to be done in the fall by state statute, but we do it twice a year. The fall we go and do that double cut. So in the spring we try and do it for the deer and the fawn and whatnot. I know we haven't been. We got down to Sage Creek this year and Bear Creek maybe. Part of great cedar. So and Colton's going to be focusing on that here in the coming weeks, so we get that done before a chip seal. It also means an addition of 2 inches of gravel every 8 years. So what that means for the entire county, we have 450 miles of approximately of gravel in the entire county. So we need to haul 60 miles of gravel every year, which means 96,000 tons of gravel. So as some of you will know, we hauled a ton out of Kerstead or Western hauled a ton out of Kerstead. We've hauled a ton out of our Robertson pit. We're hauling out of Talty pit. So in the last couple, 2-3 years, we've hauled probably 150 to 200,000 tons of material on roads, not just in the wall area, but county-wide. These are some recent costs for our gravel crushings, not including the royalties. So Paulson pit in 2022 that just got done, which was originally let in 2020. Long story, 70,000 tons was $9 a ton. 2019 first ed pit was 548, and 2018 Talty pit was 525 all for the same number of tons. So our gravel cost just for your specific area or this wall specific area have doubled. We had last year we let 2 contracts for crushing, but we were able to only award 1, and that was the Paulson pit. We had to deny the other one because we didn't have the budget for it. So I'll stop there. Are there any questions on anything that I've gone over thus far?
How are you going to get 5 miles a day with a blade? I mean, come on, Amos ran a blade for a while. I'll tell you that's pretty lazy. So what's up with 5 miles a day?
Well, I don't know for sure.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. You don't know.
I'm
You're the
not
guy,
out,
right?
I'm not out here every day, right?
Well, they are. You're the guy setting the standard, right?
Well,
How do you only get 5 miles in a blade that costs $450,000?
but my answer to that question is 5 years ago, we had guys that were here with the county highway that most of you might know. I don't know if there's anybody here that was here then, but we had guys that were here 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years that had ran a blade their entire career. And now I think our longest tenured guy is 7 years, 7 or 8 years. And the most, like the other 3 are within 2 years.
So what's your motive? Like, what are you guys like trying to accomplish here by setting a standard on what has to be done? You're saying that. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in your guys' shoes. Are you trying to establish the budgets? You know what it's gonna cost every year or what?
I think that's impossible to do. I think what we're trying to do is take the ordinance, right? And there's been a lot of, I mean, ordinance 14 prior to its update was pretty arbitrary, and there were no new roads being accepted on the system, right? And there was
If there ain't new roads going in out here, we've already established with the lion's share of the gravel roads. I mean, why not let this guy do his job and then formulate the budget based upon that? I guess, I mean, why don't we just do like a 1-year study and do it right? I mean, because he's doing a good job.
Last year, you told us the roads weren't getting paved or graded because we didn't have any rain. This year, we have tons of rain and the roads still aren't getting done.
And
And now you're saying it's a budget issue. So explain to us why you're getting 5 miles a day on a blade with a budget that should cover all of the roads. That's what the budget is for. So explain to us why it's not.
And it's operated, right? I can't,
You can't blame it on them guys, they don't do a bad job, and they're
They-
local
I-
guys, they do a good job,
I'm not
just so we're
saying-
clear, they don't do a bad job.
they need some.
But
training,
5
right?
is not nearly enough, and training time, let's be honest, any contractor's gonna teach somebody to run a piece of equipment, a few pieces of weeks, or a few weeks, or you're gone. If it takes 2 years to train somebody to run a blade, you've got the wrong guy sitting in that cab.
We haven't been full staff, we haven't been full staffed in the county since 2020.
I understand.
I was full staff for 2 weeks.
Didn't that one position get moved to Rapid though? The one wall?
After it sat vacant for almost 8 months. And it was never used, and it was never asked for help from the Rapid crew or the Norwood crew. It was never asked for help.
So
So,
I live long enough to see staff back up, I mean, we kind of just gotta make do with what we have.
absolutely, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to hire guys and give them a chance and train them up, right?
But I mean, why not allow those guys 5.5 on overtime so that they can do it?
They do get time and a half on overtime.
I'm just saying, like, if your budget then gets tight, is that what's gonna get shut off? That's why
No, absolutely not.
But that's why I feel like that's why you're trying to establish a bar on the maintenance levels of these roads, is so that in that case where the budget does run tight, you can say, oh, sorry, you gotta run one.
Well,
And that's not fair to us, because, you know, you take a guy that lives in Pennington County in Rapid City that's got a vehicle or maybe two, paying wheel tax or whatever, license registration, renewal, and things like, I mean, I think I can speak for everybody in this room, I mean, 8 to 10 or 15 vehicles a person. We're paying a share of, I feel like we're paying a more than fair share to keep them. Pretty good.
There's what was the census, 117,000 residents in Pennington County, Rapid City's 74,000 of that. And then Rapid Valley is another 12,000, right? So,
On the-
How many vehicles?
Taxes and
What
revenue.
Jake is trying to say is how many vehicles do they like?
Yeah, one.
we don't know.
Well, I
That's
think
what you're missing, most of your money comes from people like us. At the end of the day, we're the ones that have 10 trucks, or we have semis, or we have whatever the hell else. And our goddamn roads have water, in it. My driveway goes out to Babcock, and you drive through a foot of fucking water for the last month.
It flooded out.
Explain to me how that works.
22, June 11th,
At this meeting, sorry.
our road washed out, June 11th, 2022. There's a culvert about ready to go. We've had one guy out like
What
one
road?
time. Babcock Road, the one you want to say is no maintenance now.
So going north, Cheney goes left and.
Yep, you're on it.
Babcock goes north.
Yep, we had a guy come out and spray paint, what, 2 months ago?
So the guy spraying for you guys, drove up to it, stopped, turned around, went back the other way, because they deemed it impassable.
That would be.
Hey, I'm just telling you, this is how bad it is. If you don't care about things, let's talk.
I didn't realize that was even on our system, to be honest. with you. I don't think it is on our system.
It's right here on the map, it's going to no
Well,
maintenance.
and it's because it's on a section line most likely, but I don't think that section is currently on our system.
I have a
I didn't
registered
bring our-
business
Okay.
on that road that you're listing as no maintenance. 4 kids, and I have between 109 and 212 clients come out yearly.
Right, and that's the stuff we don't know.
Not only that, you have 3 or 4
I was
ag
at the last
producers that
meeting.
are hauling truckloads of cattle and grain out of that road, and you wanna go to no maintenance. So whoever came up with this needs to have this conversation with everybody and say, hey, what is going on these roads that we need to know?
That's why we're here.
That's why we're
Yeah,
doing this today,
there's a
right?
difference
So we're here to share with you that.
Somebody's residence, and everybody that lives out in my area is a small business. And we carry products, raise products that people need, and we need to be able to get them to town.
So I'm gonna say something, guys, he's not the only one that did this then. Your county commissioners have that choice, we have that choice as well, and you can call us for these issues as well, some do. Take my word for it, some don't. He doesn't know, we don't know all of this unless you tell us, or you contact him, and then we go out and look at it. And we have let them look at it, it hasn't just been tracked.
I just think it's.
What do you think we do out I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, ask those people out there.
Living on the land. You know, beer and turkey survive.
No, you got that.
All right.
Hold on, let me just point something out. Every career field out there has a book that tell you how to do your job. But when you get to real life, it doesn't necessarily follow the book, right? We've got some criteria and we're trying to figure out what we need to do. Hold on. We open it up to the public so we can find out that great stuff that's out there that we don't know about. The book says this, but what's really going on out there? What's the real life issue? I've been a medic for most all my life. I can tell you what you learn in the book, in school, versus what happens out on the field is two totally different things a lot of times. This is what we're trying to do, this is what we're trying to find out, without having hot heads on it. If you're gonna be hot headed about it, we're not gonna get anywhere. I'm here to represent this district, because it's my district, but we need to get the right information instead of driving and complaining about it. We need to say, look, such and such road is no maintenance. This is why it should not be no maintenance because of X, Y, and Z, so that we are aware.
As commissioners, we have that final say. Joe doesn't have that final say, that's why I'm here and he's here.
Now, I
He doesn't have, hold on, he doesn't have that final say. So we have this meeting today, so we can listen to you, not swear. Why you're listening, I know you're mad.
Matt is my poor kid.
Oh, we're here, so we can figure it out. We're not here just to have you just tell us something not get it done.
We did this last year. How many around the area over on-
So we're having a second one. And there's only two commissioners here. Only two out of one. Why is that? I don't know. But we are trying to change that.
Well, I appreciate that. The truth of the matter is you have this whole council of people, and not one of them gives a shit because they don't come from this end of it. So as long as you two are here, that's great. You check your box and not to say that you don't have the impact. But there's a whole pile of the other.
Can I
that
ask
are
you
not.
something? I've never checked the box. You can have some of these ranchers and farmers that have been in this area all the way to, scenic. I've never checked the box. I've broke these roads 3 or 4 times with that issue, at least.
That's
I've
what
had
the
people
rest of
call
the-
me from this district,
He has.
8 years, almost 9 years.
A lot of times when you drove the
Hey.
roads, they knew you were coming and they were bladed a day or two before.
That's not,
So-
that's not
I've
true.
never seen here without commissioners or the highway department, Chance.
After the last point.
They don't know what I forgot here all the time.
We don't
Can I say something,
can't
guys?
change anything, let's try to talk to us. You know,
We
it's
tried.
with us.
We
Tell
tried.
stuff.
We went
And
to,
when you say,
Why don't we just let him do his job? We all can develop a relationship with him, he lives close by. He is, and he's very, I mean, I don't know, I think I speak for everybody in this room when I would say that the road got instantly better the day he took the job.
Yeah.
Everybody agreed, I don't think that is not.
That's the man you should be listening to as commissioner.
And really, I think you have, I think you have been, I think.
know what they are.
And I will
And
admit,
I think that's realistic, I think, but now to be able to set a budget or to say, no, we're not gonna no longer do this anymore. That is gonna be really tough to people to swallow, because
well, some of the roads need to be no maintenance. We had people that had 2 houses on their property and we were using county blade and maintaining properties. Those. We're going to road. They don't, hold on a second, if they don't need to be minimum maintenance, we need to look at that. And we need to say, no, ranchers and farmers, this is the major area.
well, then I
We
think
can change it
be presented with those roads that you guys are thinking that we need to do that.
right on that
that's,
map.
we got that.
Well, I know, but it's not realistic, guys, take Babcock Road off, that's.
So, and then,
Or other roads even of that, I don't think that that should be for anybody else to decide other than maybe us.
literally, this was looking at GIS, doing some field work, right, verifying. We had to start somewhere, guys, all changes
Yeah.
start somewhere, right, and this is the first part of it. You're seeing the very first iteration of what we, have come up with, right? Interpreting our ordinance the way that it's written, right? Does the ordinance need to be rewritten? I don't know. We had to start somewhere, right? This ordinance 14 hadn't been updated since 2005. Our ordinance 32 for snow removal, I mean, we've gone through and updated a lot of our ordinances that hadn't been updated in 25 years or 15 years.
Okay, but I'm going back to my first question, what is your motive, why, like,
The tipping thing for this was the developers and the commission needing an avenue for section lines that I'll take, what was it, 153rd? 153rd and then Weishart,
I
right?
draw a line at the river and say that that ordinance applies to them, that does
It
not.
doesn't work that way.
Well, I live here every day of my life.
You can write your ordinance, obviously, yeah.
On these section lines. That's not, there's not new residences, I don't know what you're, I don't see any new farmhouses.
we just suffer for the new residences in the hill.
That's
What
it.
doesn't make sense is you wanna get rid of a developed road that's underused by multiple people to suffice this new development.
And it's
The
not-
reality is the new development should probably be at the bottom of the list, not the people that pay a lot of your taxes that are already established. Because when you look at this map, it comes across as, well, we're gonna scratch this and this and this, so we can support that into the county. The truth of the matter is the tax dollars, a lot of it came from here. You wanna tell me why it makes sense to cut my throat, so this guy that wanted to build a house at the end of an empty section line gets a brand new road? I wanna know the answer to that. Why do you wanna cut my driveway to appease his?
And we didn't, I mean, he's hit, right? These guys are treating it as a no maintenance road.
Actually, we started putting all those roads that come in, they would have been ones and twos, we tell them, if you're gonna ask for a variance, we're making a no maintenance road, so they actually get it. Well,
And that's what these guys have done.
And that's realistic. That's 100% realistic.
And what I've done, right, with these maps, again, scan computer, is take our ordinance and just overlay it, right? And I don't wanna make anybody angry, because this is the first iteration of it, right? I know Chance and several people were at the meeting last July when we were going over the ordinance, right? And I think we told you at that meeting that this is not final. We're going to look at it. Travis promised you a public meeting to talk about it. And that's where we're at, guys. We're here to have a conversation about your needs and the rest of the county's needs also, right? Because that's what I've got to do. I've got to balance your guys' needs, and I understand you have a lot of truck traffic. There's a lot of ag production stuff that goes on out here. There's also a lot of, for 50 cars out here and 10 of them are trucks, right? And then in town, we have a road that's Longview Road or 1416 that there's 7,800 cars a day traveling, or, Twilight Drive, 10,000 cars traveling, right? From, if you put yourself in my shoes, which road are you going to try and put your dollars to, right? With that understanding, we're gonna try and balance it, right? That's what I'm trying to do. And again, these maps are not final. These are just our first,
Mr. Miller,
yes, sir.
how many roads run north out of Wall?
Two that I know of, Creighton and, well,
Cedar View, Creighton.
yeah,
And
So you're wanting to cut off maintenance to a major road that everybody north of Wall survives on for not only their business or schools.
Creighton?
Babcock branches off of Creighton.
Well,
If I
that's
can't
the
get
one
through
portion.
Creighton to
so-
Creighton, I'm not gonna get to town.
That doesn't show all back on top, it says part of the green and. there's-
So-
Great,
and that's
can I
what I-
jump over the part that isn't maintained? There are no roads.
So you have
Yes,
two options.
up
Rapid,
You can either
if
go
one
down
road
the
is
county,
bad-
or go to no maintenance for, or you can travel a township road over to Creighton.
Right, and that's the other option that's out there too, is for these townships to pick up the road.
That's
that are-
not gonna happen, so you can't force them to accept it. I guarantee you, sitting in these township meetings, we ain't gonna take it. We don't want it. And you don't want them either. That's the truth of the matter, is it not? You don't have the money for it. You don't wanna maintain it, you can help, right?
Well, so, and my goal here is to try and, yes, to answer your question.
Yeah,
So,
Have a straight conversation with me, say yes, that's
so,
fine.
I mean, yeah,
and my goal with this was to benefit the majority, right? Because you live on Babcock, right? But you also use Creighton, right?
Sure, yep.
And the majority of your travel to and from Wall or Rapid City, well, I'll say to Wall, because Rapid City is just a long monotonous drive, but,
All of it
what's
is through
that?
Creighton. All of it is through Creighton.
Right, all of it's through Creighton. Hang on a second, hang on a second. So Creighton, would you rather us be able to maintain Creighton to a higher standard? And so you don't beat up your vehicles for the 15 or 20 miles it is to town from Babcock? To give up a mile of road, right? That's kind of what my thought process
But it
was.
doesn't so much matter if you can't get to the well-maintained road.
Right, but if that's, so I'm gonna put myself in your guys' shoes. If that was my driveway, right, and it was on a section line, so by things that.
And
But it's still one residence, right? So let's just.
You're hung up on this residence thing, you gotta stay just a second and let me explain that to you. This is not about just my driveway. This is about getting my crops, my cattle, an emergency situation, all these things to town that road services, not just me. It services everyone in the area for their needs. You'll find all these landowners don't all just live in one place. This is not Eastern South County. Okay, when you come to me and you say you want a minimal, or sorry, no maintenance road, that says to me in 3 to 5 years, this thing is gonna be impassable with a truck, which means it's unusable. If you came to me and said, I wanna make it a minimum rate maintenance road, it's still gonna be usable, we're gonna blade it, you probably wouldn't have quite the fight on your hand, but when you go to this no maintenance thing, we know how stuff degrades over time. When you do that, we see that as the same as abandoning it.
Well, hindsight, it's 8 miles for us just to get our mail on this road, Babcock. 8 miles of this road, and these guys are farther yet to their mailbox.
And so how much
No
of it
maintenance.
is on the map over there? How much is minimum maintenance?
Depends on where you go from the intersection at, Babcock South is minimum, the north of that is the no, and then you guys are what, no down to the river, or minimum down to the river.
Yeah, but how far is that no on that?
2 miles for us.
To the house, I think the whole road is 3 miles there. And it's farmland the whole way along there. And then at the back end is yet another place that these guys have that you haul cows in and out of all the time. So the whole road gets used, not that it just dead ends at the intersection. But it's not just that road in general, it's any of these roads the guys are going to no maintenance on. They know they need to be able to get it out of their equipment with trucks to travel between places. And when you go to this no maintenance approach from what you guys are showing us, those roads are going to go to nothing over the course of the next few years. And at that point, there is no road system left to access a lot of the property.
So,
Now, you can't go down the block and take a different street.
Right.
no, I
There's one-
understand that. So
One,
I'm trying to think of an analogy here.
that's fine now.
I guess.
Isn't everyone's road a farm to market road? Whether you're the one guy at the end or you're 100 with 10, you have to service all of those roads to get to the main road to get there. I didn't realize that there was 2 or 3 specific roads that were farm to market roads. How do I get to them? These subsidiary roads where the T into them here and there, I would say them are farm to market roads too. They all grain in and out all the time. They all cattle in and out. And then they're going somewhere with them, market to a different place, something.
And maybe farm to market road isn't the right term. Maybe it's the primary highway system road, the primary roads that everybody uses, right? And, you know, I can't dispute what you're saying, right? Because he hauls cattle on the 2 miles of road, right?
Yep.
I understand that, but if somebody else has a business, so I thought of the perfect analogy. So there's a south of city of Rapid City, right? There's a business going in. And to get to their property or to get to their business, they had to build the road to get to their business. Why? The county didn't. So why should the county have to build a road to get to
These
the road?
businesses were established, that road was there. You're talking 2 different things. You're talking versus already here.
Well,
I mean, that's-
road that we all already use versus one that has never been put there and they just build it. If I build that road, I know in my mind, I'm not gonna come to you and say, hey, will you maintain my road for me? I know, I'm accepting that
You know how
responsibility.
many times a week we get asked?
Not from us, I'll guarantee you, not one
That's
time
not-
you
that's
got
not
called
true.
any of these guys and said, hey, will you come do my driveway?
Not necessarily the wall, but in Pennington County, that's not true at all.
I'm saying here.
Jeff, you've been waiting a while. What was your question?
So you said 205 miles in the all division.
Correct.
Yeah. How many miles is going to become minimum maintenance and no maintenance? Is that going to cut it in half? 60%, 20%, or 30% of your?
I'll get back to you because I don't remember the exact number.
Well, this is why we're kind of having this meeting. This kind of all junctions in with it.
And I don't,
So just rough estimate what it is.
the no maintenance, it's a very good question, Jeff, and I appreciate the question, but I think the answer to no maintenance, there's roads that are not currently on our system. I think there's 4 or 5 miles of road that are not currently even on our system, that are on section lines, that are in 3 section lines, that are gonna go on our system, right? And some of those will even be minimum maintenance, so they're gonna be another cost to the county. And I think minimum maintenance out here, if I had to guess, I think it was, if I remember right, the number of miles to minimum maintenance was 70 to 80 in that
So
range.
you're saying from 205, so from 75 and then 3 miles, that's 81 miles or whatever. Go ahead.
No, you're spot on. The question is, and I don't know if you brought it, do you even have it? You have a map of what's current versus what you're proposing.
I don't.
I think that would have shown, that would have given us a better idea.
Yeah, because if we're going to cut our road, just say by 60%.
Well, I guess I can answer that question, because right now, everything on that map is maintained by Pennington County, except for the red road.
Yes. Yeah,
Everything on that area.
and you said there's 205, so I'm trying to figure out what percentage are we cutting?
There's 205 of them.
30%, 20%. So when you do your budget deal for the year, how much more is that cutting us? Is it cutting 30% of the budget, you know, because we took off so many roads for no maintenance and this and that.
So, and I don't think it's so much a budget thing, right? It's more that you guys can focus on Creighton, Quinn, Pedro, and the minimum maintenance that we have to find here, let's see here. So we're gonna blade it at a minimum of twice a year, right? And it says May in there, right? That doesn't mean we're gonna blade it twice and walk away, right? If we have the time and the resources, we're gonna maintain it more than that.
Joe,
I
I
think,
think everybody agrees, we're probably already a little bit minimum, what we're worried about is snow removal. So when you go to that, it's 6 inches compared to 4. I think that's what everybody's kind of worried about here, it's more winter than blading the road. Yes, the roads are rough, we kind of know that, we've been in a drought, we all agree with that. But what everybody is kind of worried about here is winter time. Like Candace said, she has kids that go to school. Well, we need a snow blade and, well, you did get 6 inches. Well, then they might not be able to make it. And we've had this discussion before, Joe. When you drive over a road that has 3 inches of snow and it packs down, then it becomes ice, and then we get snow again, still not 4 inches. But now we got a road that's a sheet of ice with snow. What everybody here, I'm pretty sure, I'm not speaking for everybody, but we're more worried about winter. And if you turn it down and it's has to be 6 inches, very, very few times do we get 6-inch snow. We get snow that accumulates up to 6, but in one snowfall, hardly ever do you get 6.
December was an anomaly then.
Well.
Yeah.
Pretty much. No, I agree.
Joe, let me ask you this, what happens when you don't take it off the road, any road base, that is a gravel road? And we get 2 inches, 3 inches, pick your depth, I don't care. And we let that soak into the road and soften the road repeatedly all winter. What does your upkeep cost turn into to repair a road that is soaked up and damaged throughout the winter all along versus maintaining? I guess my question here is, can you afford to not take the snow off the road, let it eat away at the base and deteriorate that road? Or would you be cheaper to run a blade down it at 20 miles an hour and blow the snow off?
I've never done that analysis, so
I
I don't
can tell you
know.
the answer, I think you know it too. What's cheaper, dirt or snow to move? You know the answer to this. Don't play with me. You know the answer.
Well, it's not like if you're moved, but what I'm formulating, I guess, here is during the winter time, your gravel roads are mostly froze, right?
Sure.
So that water is not going to soak in, even if we get a 45, 50-degree day, right? It's not going to soak into your road base.
Sure it does.
What's the first thing?
That's what.
In the winter time, instead of that in your office.
South, I mean, always.
I take offense to that, because I am very rarely in my office, I will tell you that.
You need to come to this end of the county.
I have been to this end of the county more times in the last 2 months than I care to count.
Well,
I think it's fine, if you guys do your job, it'll be to save you enough money for it to be a mute point. I honestly, if you put it up with a slope on the.
Right.
let the water
Guys, we're here to look, we are understanding, and now we're getting, we got it before, but now Joe wanted to change some of the no maintenance and the maintenance. Looking at that and looking at it, and if you don't look at it, come back and tell these two commissioners, then Joe, we didn't do any changes. We're trying to figure it out.
Well, there's things that you're here today to help you to do that. One of these is to clear the snow off, because the damage down the road in the springtime is gonna cost you more than the maintenance is to take the snow off. I understand you have a snow removal budget. In some years, you're gonna use a lot of it. In other years, you're gonna use almost none of it, okay? Take it or leave it that way, it's just the way it goes. Any of these roads that you maintain and keep maintained are cheaper to keep around and keep going than it is to come back and fix it.
Absolutely, 100%. It's
So
always
when
cheaper to maintain it than it is. to-
Okay.
When you started this, you wanted to show me all these slides of what it costs to do this and new equipment, and we all know, because believe me, on our end of the world, we buy everything at retail and sell it wholesale, we know. Okay? And it's our tax dollars that get charged to pay for this, when you tell me about your budget, the one that comes out of my taxes, right? Cool, so we're all tracking so far, right? Okay? How is it that you expect me to think that you can stand here and tell me, well, no, it's more about the hours of these guys and their time involved in doing this? When just 15 minutes ago, you were telling me about how it is about the money. I mean, you switched horses halfway through here. Which one is it?
It's a combination of both.
Okay. So how do we find a happy median in that without
And that's why.
taking away from what is already established and needed? I understand you have some new roadways coming on the system. It would seem to me that like all things, what's already existed is gonna be cheaper to maintain than to create something new. Nobody here's asking you to make something new. We want you to maintain what's already there. That's really what this comes down to at the end of the day. And we want you to do it in a manner that the roads don't deteriorate in 3 to 5 years, because the no maintenance stuff will be worthless. The minimum, hey, it'll be however much you guys or these guys have time to work on, right?
That's.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
So, what, I guess, to reiterate what I'm hearing that you're saying, if we were to take the no maintenance and change them to minimum maintenance, you would understand the standpoint a little better. Is that correct?
I think you would have a lot better, crowd sitting in front of you if you went away from the no maintenance approach and looked at a minimal at the very least. These guys aren't necessarily doing a bad job on the local side. There's little holes I'd like to bitch and get somebody in the corner about and have a problem with, but it's one little instance here or there. The big picture is, at the end of the day, if you don't take care of these roads overall and you turn into minimal maintenance, before long, you're gonna have no road system left in a lot of these areas.
To minimum maintenance or no?
Or
maintenance?
sorry, no maintenance.
Guys, and within today, this is why we're here, I like hearing that. Saying sucks as a superintendent, all that doesn't get you anywhere. What it does is, you're trying to listen, you're making good sense, and a lot of you are making good sense that are telling us what the issues are, that you don't want no maintenance, you don't want some of it that has to be that minimum maintenance, some of it has to be full maintenance. That's what we need to listen to. That's what we need to go back and tell our commissioners and work with Joe, to find that solution. If people know me good enough, I don't just fill it full of crap.
The reason we
I'm
all got
saying the
fired
crap.
up is because last year in July, you told us, as a group, we all came together and said, these roads aren't being maintained properly as is. We have problems that aren't being addressed or fixed.
Right.
And now you want to go to no maintenance. That's why everybody's fired up, because we're not getting the maintenance we need now, and you're wanting to cut budgets and cut corners at our expense.
And then, all, in their defense, they have not cut, that count, well, aside from 2015, they have not cut the county highway budget. They've actually, Travis and I know Deb was part of the wheel tax. They've actually increased their budget, right? But as you all know, it's never enough. Right. Okay, Deb, you had a question?
So is this the only, is Wall Division the only county that doing this?
No, absolutely not. This is just where we started.
So,
I knew you were gonna be the toughest crowd.
so this is what you're trying to say is anything that's paid is gonna be full maintenance in your main highway. So like Page, Pedro, Quinn Road, we all see it's gonna be full maintenance. And you did your counter, well, everybody that's driving off these secondary roads that you're trying to make it to minimum maintenance, of course, that's the main hub. That number's gonna be up. It's the same people coming from the road. That's driving other roads. So like down by me, there's, well,
You,
we will see Brett, Nelson. So when we go anywhere, we have to either grab Creighton or Pedro. So you're double counting us and everybody else. So you just can't take the number off of Creighton Road to say, well, this many people drive Creighton Road every day. Well, it's everybody driving it, so we're coming off of these secondary roads.
right, and all of those secondary roads have individual counters. We're not
Yeah.
counting them twice. We're trying to figure out where the traffic's coming from and how much traffic is on that road, right? It's
But
not,
if you took off all the numbers on the secondary road, traffic was Creighton Road.
it was still the same amount.
Not, you took off all the numbers that came off of. So what you did, like on my road, it said 12 per day, is what it said. But 12 off of Creighton, 12 left road. Because they're getting counted twice, see what I'm saying here?
Right, I don't see your point, I guess, is what I'm struggling
What
with.
I'm
because
saying is,
the
you're trying
count-
to keep the main hubs open, but if we don't have a secondary road to get to the main hub, then that number goes down.
The count is the count, right? I mean, you guys are gonna drive,
I get what he's saying. He's saying if the road is snowed in, and you can't drive that road. Then if you haven't been counting it, and they don't put them out there in snow, but if you're counting that day, you would actually have less traffic on that road. That's
The way to look at it is there's no through traffic. Everybody being counted on that road resides somewhere. I mean, it's not like there's somebody commuting from Wall to Page that they take Creighton Road.
you can't get there.
There's no more. No, you can't, that's railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah, something like it. I mean, but
That point is, you gotta go.
you have to
Tim down. These minimum maintenance roads are, they're gonna get really busy here, we've got harvest coming on, and so the traffic count's gonna go up, with loads of wheat coming off. Later, you're gonna get hay getting hauled home. These minimum maintenance roads are gonna have a high count here shortly. And it's seasonal, fall of the year, cattle going to town, cattle get hauled out, just like they get hauled in the spring. So instead of minimum maintenance, I think, about the time of those seasons, if you could run a plate, it'll kind of get it in shape. Because we don't want to drive our trucks and stuff over that. It's easier to keep a road up and rebuild it.
Right, and that's-
It's gonna shake things apart, and you just showed what the costs and stuff were gonna be. So I think there's some ground here where we can negotiate.
Well, and it's not, I mean, we're here to hear from you guys, right? These are your roads. You drive them every day. The guy that you need to be talking to is Colton, right? When you say, hey, I'm gonna harvest, I've got X number of loads of hay or grain or cattle, right? Hey, could you come out
And I
and,
think he's familiar, the seasons.
yeah, he's been here, I mean,
So,
he grew up in it.
way like down the Dinky Road.
And I think everybody knows that we had a change in leadership here, and I think Colton's doing a very good job,
And the roads have improved, thank you.
and I apologize for the spring, we bit off probably a little bit more than we can see. I think Colton will probably agree in Sage Creek, right? We're trying to do a good thing for Sage Creek, and hopefully at some point we can do the same for Creighton and Pedro, right? So that you guys have a good hard road to drive on all the way around, right? And they don't get that way. That's my goal, is to be able to upgrade these roads, because when they
So
get.
we need minimum maintenance roads a few times a summer also.
And absolutely,
And
I
I don't
agree.
want you to just abandon them and blame them maybe once a year.
No, and
That's one thing. I live on the Cedar View Road, across the road. I got 45-foot road,
we're at,
gravel road going from Cedar View.
yeah, I know where we're at on Trask, I guess. Is
At
what-
the end of the trail.
The way of the trail?
Yeah.
The end of the trail, you said?
There goes from the Cedar View Schoolhouse, Cedar View Road, all the way to the end of the road,
Okay,
about 12, 13 miles.
yeah, it's been a long, it's
It's
probably,
40-some feet wide. It's wider than the pavement. You wanna save some money. These guys, whoever taught them how to lay the road, absolutely knows nothing. This road, they hauled new gravel onto it here for the last 4, 5, 6 years. Well, they can't go any further the one last mile because the bridge is condemned for that.
yeah, it's on the list to be replaced.
Yeah, you gotta see what it looks like now, but anyway, so I played the last mile. I touch it once or twice a year. It's good, and there is no new gravel on it. But you haul gravel on the whole road from that bridge all the way to the Cedar View Schoolhouse, it's 40-foot wide and it's flat.
Okay, and that's not how we are taught
Right,
to make.
all the
road.
gravel's in the road. You know, you want to save some money in the gravel, why don't you put ditches up in there? Yeah, it can be narrowed up, put it around, it don't have to be, right now it's so rough, first time to see the latest today. Thank you, still, since the first rain in June, they were out there laying that road, with 2.5 inches of rain on it. Good thing we got it stopped, it was soup, it's a pretty good road, kinda nice. But when it's flat at the table, there's no place for water, so you're wasting gravel, long in the winter time, and they throw that gravel off the road ditch, they got a windrow. Well, why do you put a windrow? Have no idea. You waste your time bringing a sprayer down there in the summertime, kill the weeds, totally wasted money. They don't do it, they don't kill one weed, everything's still growing there. Want to kill the weeds, so you don't have to pump on the road, make it rough. You gotta roll the edge on your blade, right? Why do you gotta roll the edge on the blade? You take that little loose gravel on the side of the road and you shake it across the road. We all know you can't lay the road when it's dry as can be, we know that.
You can do some.
But they still take that loose gravel, they jiggle it across the road and fill in the washboard. In 2 days, it's worse yet, that dry gravel don't pack in there. So you wanna save some money, once you teach road graders how to run the blade and do it right, put a crown on. That road that got brand new gravel in, 5 years old. Maybe 6, I don't know, not very old.
It's overdue for
It's
gravel.
all in the ditch,
Yeah,
and you can't find gravel.
no, it's,
I know where it's at. Get in the ditch and get it out of there.
I agree. I have not been to the very end of Trask and said so, probably 2020, so I don't know what they're talking about. That man right there will take a look and absolutely, we just spent, how many days?
You can cut the gravel all around. You don't need to haul gravel to these roads. There is so much gravel there. I could gravel Creighton Road 4 times over again just from the road ditches.
And how many times?
So why do we keep hauling it on there?
And
Why don't
it's,
you get down in there and make a road? I mean,
yeah,
I
and
see it all over the place, but you just said that show us how much it was costing us to gravel all these 60 miles a year you had to pull. I don't know who's telling you to do that.
that's just the cycle that the county highway has been on. since
That's what I
before my
like to prevent right here is cycle. I do not want normalcy in what we're doing. We don't need hey, this is what we gotta do, this is what it's gotta be done, this is when it's gotta be done.
And that's,
You need to have somebody that knows what they're doing, just does a decent job.
and that's why we're here, right? This is a change,
There's
right?
a-
I'm trying to break the cycle. I'm trying to break the cycle, right? And Colton, how many days did you sit motor grader training this fall, in the spring, right, when we started? 2 to 3 days work, about that? So, I mean, yes, ma'am.
One thing I'd like to.
Hold on, yeah, we gotta hear that.
Hang on, Myron, I'll get to you.
Thank you, sir.
That guy he had hired, the meat county that came down and do the roads.
Okay.
He did an awesome job.
Yep.
It lasted about 2 months, and then right back to the local before he was here. Because he pulled the shoulder with them. And it held up really
Yep.
good.
And he actually, Colt, or, not Colton, Colton's right there, Charlie, there you go. He spent probably a week or more with all of the operators down here, teaching them how to do that. So if it's not happening, that man needs to know.
He did an awesome job. You need to listen to him because we all know how Main County was 15 years ago. And now, well, I'll go there instead of driving by. Because it's not good.
And no, we've actually, Charlie's been training many of our blade operators. He spent at least a week plus with all of the blade. Where's Zach? I seen him walk in. How many weeks did Charlie spend with you?
Probably 2-3 weeks.
I mean, we spent a lot of time down here in those 2 months trying to train guys. And if we need to send them down here to do more training, that's what we'll do. So I appreciate.
Yeah, I think he did a great job. He probably did.
And,
Yeah, I did that.
yeah,
It
well,
was good for a couple months. I was getting compliments and stuff after Charlie's done with me and everything about that.
so I mean, if that's what needs to happen, then, I mean, once we get done with training, that's what we'll do. I mean, we just need to know about it, right? Hang on a second, hang on. Myron, what do you mean?
Well, I think, you're worried about traffic count, I kind of think that if you go on where we live on, our ranches on Junction Road, or State Street Road. Now there's over 1 million bushels of storage on that road, feed commodities, it's all off there. But our feedlot, Scott's feedlot, there's over 2,500 jobs in that area. All that hay and silage or grain that's got to come in and out of that road, it isn't 4 houses that live there, 4 cars. It's a commodity that has to go on that. And you're worried about the junk roads like Creighton and Twin and those. Well, first guys knows that I can know all that guys got a lot of grain up there too, but there's other lanes that have a lot of product too.
Well, that's what we're eating.
Tell them that it's not license plates on cars, it's very valuable, but the amount of truck traffic we have.
Yep,
And
and we
they
have,
go more in cars.
we have all the truck
And they're a
counts.
lot more expensive to make. And that's the last 2 years, it's been going because the board for it is bad, because it rains on Thursday, and you know where Friday is. We didn't
That's
have
not
any rain.
true, you know that.
But, like, you're doing it, and it's got trying issues, when you start on the road, you just be part of do all. If we go both ways.
Absolutely.
And just like that, it's seasonal. They can put your traffic counter out at the right time of year and you don't get much traffic. But during harvest, you get a ton of traffic.
And it's,
It almost needs to be a year deal. I don't know how you count the traffic in a year's time with some counters, but you'd get a more accurate idea of the true amount of traffic on the road than a 2-week span or whatever.
and our traffic manager does it, it's arbitrary, right? He just has roads on a 3 or a 6 year cycle, and he counts them, and then some of them, does count every year. So it's, and where it's getting counted in a given year. I mean, it might be during harvest in one cycle, it might not be the next cycle, so we have traffic counts going back all the way to 94 or 96. So the numbers that are on there are the most recent traffic counts when it was done. So we can look back and average those traffic counts and get a pretty good idea. They don't change a whole lot, as you guys know.
So you've got a good idea of what roads are the main ones. And if you hear what these guys said to you today, there's a time when they get used harder than others. So any reasonable person would look and go, you need to work on them in those timeframes more than the others. If you want to make the most out of your budget, use them when they're needed. Use them at harvest time, use them when stuff needs to be hauled, and you know them trucks do damage. We all know that, that's part of it, fine. But if you want to save some money, use them at the right time. And when you have the opportunity to blade it in the spring, blade it there, great, get it set up. If it needs it, great, go blade it. But just understand, you're gonna have more demand throughout that portion of it. So that your counters are kind of not necessarily relevant, but they don't tell you a very good story other than just that one day that you look at. The truth of the matter is your traffic in July, August, and September on grade is gonna be way more than it's ever gonna be in March. And I have no idea when he puts his counter out, but just so you understand, your numbers are only so good. The main roads that go to town are ones that have a lot of cars. Pretty simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's logic, right? And our counters, just so everybody knows, they're out for 8 days, right? They normally put them out on a Wednesday, and pick them up on the following Thursday, or put them out on a Tuesday, or with you in just a second. Put them out on a Tuesday, pick them up on a Wednesday type deal. So it counts over the 7 days, and that's how it comes up with the average daily traffic count. And we typically start the first week in May, and we count all the way through October. So, I mean, we're getting a wide variety of counts in there. So I hear what you're saying, and I know that, right? I grew up here, I'm from Pennington County, and I have a lot of these roads, I've pheasant hunted a lot of these roads, right? So, and I understand that there's harvest, there's cattle hauling, right? It's all, the trucks are cycle, it's all cycle, right? It's everything that we do. So, again, Devin, I'll get to you soon.
So, by putting it into minimum maintenance, no maintenance, how much money do you guys have to save the county? Are you gonna have to let people go in the county because you're getting, less than the workload? Because if you go from 4 inches to 6 inches, we just had that discussion, you probably won't get snow blade. So is this office is the wall office gonna get rid of a blade or two, or a person or two?
I think that
So,
the answer to your question is no.
okay, so you're going to keep pretty much the same overhead, but do less, is what it kind of sounds like, because you're not getting rid of any blades, not getting rid of any of the employees.
Maybe not wall, right?
But
The county is bigger than wall.
well, but in this district, we're talking about wall district right now. So if these roads turn them down to some of the minimum maintenance, no maintenance, you probably don't need the manpower, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely, I hear what you're saying.
So
That's not our goal, right? That's not my goal.
okay, then why are we gonna do this if we're not getting to lessen our budget any for this deal? Because we're still gonna have the same amount of blades, same amount of people, but you're gonna actually be covering less roads.
I think I answered that question already, and it was to focus on the Quinn, the Pedro.
I'm not talking about, I'm
Right.
talking about the secondary.
Right, but that's the goal, right, is to be able to spread. So, okay, so Pedro's a full maintenance road, we're gonna blade that, whatever, full thing, once every 2 weeks, right? We're gonna run a blade up it, all the way to Wilson, and all the way back down, right? If they can get that many miles, doesn't sound like they can get that many miles, right? So we need to train our operators. I hear what you're saying, but that's not the goal. And if we have time and we train our operators to get more in a day, we're gonna go and we're gonna get the minimum maintenance. The minimum maintenance, we have to start somewhere, right? Change starts somewhere. That's what we're starting with. That's why we're here today. I'll keep reiterating that. This was our first throw at the dartboard. Did we hit a bullseye? Probably not. We hit a 1, right?
You've learned one thing, we want no maintenance. roads.
Absolutely, I hear you, 100%.
What about,
Because we pay property taxes, we pay wheel taxes, we pay gas taxes, we pay income taxes. The only thing that a rural person sees coming back from the county is that road.
Yeah, and I understand that. I hear that.
I mean,
Absolutely.
and we're gonna fight like hell not to have that happen.
Absolutely.
What about
Yes, you
mail
should.
routes on minimum maintenance roads?
We haven't even talked about it, I guess.
Yeah, Wilsey Road is gonna be no maintenance. There's. man,
Well,
I called the post office, if it's marked minimum maintenance, mail will not go down.
and I haven't talked to the postman.
And my other question, if you guys did for me, it's kind of minor, but is there any way you can get subsidy from federal government, like on State Street Road, that you can pay back on some of that?
No.
The-
So we,
Look into that, see if there's any way.
so
Going to the park.
Sage Creek Road, so Sage Creek Road is kind of, and I just learned this year, so. Sage Creek Road was there prior to the Badlands National Park being a park. So the county actually owns the right of way through there, so if you go out to like the Black Hills National Forest. And the roads we maintain there, we have an easement on the Black Hills National Forest to do our maintenance. Whereas the Badlands National Park, we own that right of way, it's 100% ours. They can't tell us what we can and can't do through the park, it's our right. So to answer your question, no, the Badlands National Park doesn't assist us with anything there. What's that?
You don't get a penny on it.
No, so they did help us with the
They don't
motor.
pay taxes, you pay the county, is that correct?
So we get a,
Anything in the road,
probably-
doesn't pay taxes.
we get. What's the fund from the national government, from the federal government? Payment in lieu of taxes. The tilt money. We get tilt money on all the stuff that's not on the tax roll of the federal government. So it's us, and I think Lawrence County and Custer County all get tilt.
Not what we pay for improvement.
What's that?
It's not what we pay for.
Oh, absolutely not.
Something.
It's better than nothing, I'll say. Yes, sir.
Might be a bad question, I got apologize, I don't hear so well, but if I understood what you were saying is that we're not trying to cut our budget. And so why do we change it? Why don't we give this a year and get a chance to do what we've been doing in the past here? Try to fix it, make it a little better, like Grant pointed out, there's more gravel in road ditches than we need, so we count that out. Why don't we give them a chance to come up, maintain the roads we got? Why don't we continue to move snow so the kids can get to school, or somebody has a heart attack and get to the hospital? So did I miss something here, or what are we gaining? Keep saying we're not worried about the budget, we're not cutting people, we're not cutting plows, we're not cutting anything, so what's going on?
Again, I'll go back to, and I understand you don't hear. So what, hopefully, can you hear me now?
I'm trying.
Okay, essentially, this all started with development in the Rapid Valley area east of town, right? There's section lines that, are being subdivided, there's ranchettes, right? And it's 153rd Avenue, and a gentleman wanted to put a residence at the end of it. Well, 153rd Avenue is a section line, and by state statute, section lines are the county's responsibility. So that before, or the update of ordinance 14, the county commission didn't have any avenue to say, no, we're not going to maintain that section line. Now with the update to ordinance 14, they have the ability to say, no, that's going to be designated as a no maintenance road because we're not taking on any more roads, right? So that's what started the entire process. So in July 27th, I think is the date on the final reading of that ordinance. I think we started it in May, went through what, 3 or 4 readings last year. And it's taken us a year to get to look at all of the roads in all of Pennington County and look at the number of residences and all the stuff that is within the ordinance and apply the ordinance to our roads. And that's why we're here having this first public meeting to talk to you guys and see what you think. And we've heard great feedback. I appreciate everybody's comments and concerns, and we'll take them back. I know Travis has heard you loud and clear. Deb has heard you loud and clear, right?
Could that have been done separately? So you don't want to take on the section line and any additional little bits of road. Did this have to be shirt-tailed on the back, the minimum and no, everything we're dealing with today? I understand you don't wanna develop any more section lines and maintain any more roads. But how, I mean, why is this one issue? Isn't that an issue and then our deal a separate issue? It seems like it's been all lumped together.
An ordinance is an ordinance. It's gotta be applied to everybody throughout the county, and I don't know how many of you know, but Pennington County is probably one of the most litigated counties in the state.
But there's no new roads here. It's kind of a
It's
different
not
thing.
just here, Chance, we gotta think outside of just Wall, right?
Well, I am.
I'm taking on new roads.
What's that?
It's affecting the most, it's us, guys.
That's not necessarily true.
That is true. Yes, it is true. That is a fact.
You wonder what has way
We've
more.
already established how many miles of rural roads there are in Pennington County. We know we have the lion's share of it.
Right,
So therefore, it's affecting us more than it's affecting them.
you have the lion's share of gravel.
Well, that's what we're talking about. And furthermore, does it take more people to maintain less roads? I mean, like, let's see.
Everybody to go up and drive those roads between Rapid Valley and Underwood and see how many paved roads are up there now. You
Most
would stop.
Hold on, I think Joe should make a point about the maintenance roads right now compared to areas. So you're
My
right.
point kind of being said, though, we're not taking on new roads. We're really not talking about doing anything different, is what I've been hearing. I've been hearing prior to
And
the
that's-
meeting, but I really heard today at the meeting, so. I don't understand why our unit down here, our district has to change anything, because somebody new is moving into Rapid City. I don't understand that for sure. And, you know, if the people sitting right here, we could beat 5 times the amount of people that's moved into Rapid City, and we're suffering because we can't get our crops.
Ordinances change that
And it doesn't have any, it doesn't make any difference how many people live on that road. It's how many, Myron pointed out, it's how many cattle, how many bushels of wheat comes off of that. And not only that, we gotta think about these kids that gotta get to school.
Yep, and again, I hear you guys loud and clear in what you're saying, right?
I don't think they hear it loud and clear.
The commission is very good and has been very good about hearing taking my advice, and I don't think there hasn't been a lot of stuff. that
If we don't hear you today, you call
Yeah, you do that, Mary. It's the other ones that didn't show up, because they're gonna outvote you, and you're gonna say, I did what I could. That's how these things always work. And you can represent us to the best that we would be just in love with what you do, and they can still outvote the both of you.
But then how do you outvote people if it's just two of them? If all of you people go out there and go up there and you fill that room and say, stop the insanity. That's how you take politicians and you make them change the roads. It's unfortunate for some of them. And I don't know if those three do or don't at this point. I'm not gonna beat them up here. But bottom line is, if you want to change your vote, you gotta email the crap out of people, say, stop this. These are the concerns, and it can't be 3 people. And when it comes to voting for this, you gotta be up there, you have to represent it, just like you are today. Because if you don't, we can only do what we do, and we're not doing it because we're trying to say, oh, they got 3 votes. We're here because we wanna fight for it. So we need your help, and I just talked to Joe about this. People think that just us two can do it, we can.
So whose side are you on though? Like, this is what you present.
What I just heard,
I'm
here's
serious.
what I heard, I'm not on the side. What I'm gonna do, and people know me good enough, I'll look at the facts and information, I'm gonna come drive this again. I'm gonna go see what the issues are, and Joe is gonna go with me, I make him go, I don't make him, okay, that's bad. I tell him, I need your help. We've done it before, I've done it more than once, done it many times, and people said, Dad, come out there and look at this stuff. Went to Sage Creek, went to different places, Travis's cage, went with Joe in different areas. A couple of them did go to different places, but I don't know what to tell you about that, but bottom line is, it sounds like there's an issue with minimum maintenance roads that need to not be minimum maintenance today, that's what I'm hearing the most.
Yep. And
And
that's
if it's
what
no maintenance, it's probably a road that doesn't need to be traveled, is not been traveled, if it's your own residence, that's probably no maintenance. But other than that, it sounds like, and I do listen to country folk, and I do care what you guys do, sir. One that said I didn't know, I know. I know because I've listened, and been in here for a while, when they needed my help. I respect you guys the most because of what you do for your business, what you have done. Makes a huge difference. So now we have to listen a little bit more, we have to find a little bit more, and we don't. Maybe in some areas, you change minimum maintenance and no maintenance, some of these things. If that needs to happen, Joe has to listen, he's part of that. He's part of that, so, and then your guy behind you is gonna tell us too, so we look at all the facts, we put it together, and we say, okay. There ain't nothing wrong with being wrong,
So what happens after today? Because I can sit here and yell at Joe till he cries in court. I mean, I can make you feel this big all day long, or I can make you two feel this big all day long. What happens after this meeting today with your commission to make these decisions? Where is it that this gets decided?
So I was thinking,
we don't make a
Thank you.
decision right now, we don't make it right now,
can I
we're going,
answer this question?
sorry.
So that's why I keep saying these maps are just our first throw at the dartboard, right? Because this is a process. The ordinance was the first part of the process. The second part of the process is this all has to be done by resolution. And what that means is we'll put a resolution together. I'm gonna take what you guys have said, and we're probably gonna go and we're gonna revamp these roads, right? And maybe take a harder look at them. And hopefully you guys have filled out a comment sheet with where you live and what you do, right? And I can take that back and we can go and take a second look at these. And we'll probably have to have a second meeting, right? I'm sure Travis is going to request. I know he is, just by that look, right? So then, after we get this handled, then we guys are maybe appeased or happy with what you're seeing, right? No change is probably what you want to see, right? But maybe there's a middle point in there, but resolution is the second part of it, right? The resolution hasn't been done since 2012, so it hasn't been looked at in 13, now will be 14 years by the time it's set down.
Joe, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
So what I really wanted to hear from the public today, and I understand there's breaks for out here, because I've talked to several of y'all about different issues out here. But for example, when I read through the dartboard and through the dart of the paper, it said, this is what we, by our ordinance standards, this is what we're proposing. In the first meeting, I wanted to hear from you guys, and I'm just gonna use Babcock, okay? Here's the issue with Babcock. We do grain, we do cattle, we do whatever it is that you do. If you make this a no maintenance road, this is how it's gonna impact us. School, whatever it is, you know, boom, that's why you can't make it no maintenance, because while your counter may say there's 12 cars or 6 cars or whatever, the reality is boom, 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 this is what you're gonna impact. Then somebody says, so we'll just go to a road like 22nd Street. Whoever's there says, well, maybe that doesn't even be a minimum, not a no maintenance road, because here's how it's impacting us. Maybe such and such that travels through there all the time, or because there's a rancher out there that's a certain age, we've got to send an ambulance out there a couple of times. We need to make sure that that road has the maintenance it needs, so that we can get out there and do this, that, and the other. That is what I'm here to figure out here, because whatever the proposal is, no maintenance, you know, like, wait a minute, and start tearing everybody up. That doesn't get down to the point of, we need to understand why it does not need to be no maintenance or minimum maintenance. If Babcock or Cheney or Babcock, which the green portion of this is no maintenance, and you feel it needs to be full maintenance, we need to understand that because of harvest or whatever, we're having these kind of trucks go through there, and this is the problems we're gonna have if it's not at this level of maintenance. Then we can sit there and we can say, okay, Joe, you got all this feedback from the community. Let's now work through this again and say, is this the appropriate level that these roads should be at? No, not that one, not that one. Well, now let's go talk about this. Maybe we disagree on that one. We come back and say, okay, here's the new proposal. These ones we adjusted. Here's the ones we still think are no maintenance or just minimal maintenance. What and why, and let's talk about those and make sure. I believe in doing this in a couple of stages, so we can get all the information about all the roads before we make the final decision. If we don't do that, and we just sit here and grind and complain, we're not gonna get anywhere. We can get outvoted, I'm not saying we will, so we could, because we didn't come back with all the information to say, look, the community pointed out this, this, and this, Joe heard it. We had a conversation, he agreed or disagreed, I don't know, I'm not gonna say which way or the other, but let's say he agrees, and they go, okay, well, Joe says, let's go ahead and keep it as minimum maintenance or full maintenance, and then we can move forward.
He'll be part of that vote, meaning if he's here doing the meetings and he changes that, guys, they're not gonna argue with that. I truly believe in that. So if Joe, Joe's not gonna make y'all happy, everybody happy in this room, and hopefully find some more solution by listening to what he has today. And I truly believe he will, listen to us, and he'll tell us the truth of it, and then we'll go investigate. So we do best, and then we come back, and then we figure out that solution. And then come back to you guys again, and I'll show up with Travis again, and see what I'll be good for you guys when we're done.
And I've heard from all
Joe,
of
you got
you.
comment cards here for?
Yeah, there's some in the
So
back.
they can fill out a comment card and say, we think Babcock should not be no maintenance, or minimum maintenance. Write your name and contact information, so that we can meet up with you on those. If you agree with all the other ones, I'm just saying in general. Tell us what you agree with, or just tell us what you don't agree with, let us know, so we can come out and take a look at it, one-on-one, or 2 or 3 of us.
And I've heard you guys are.
About 7 minutes, please.
What's that?
Can I have one short comment?
I just wanna say one thing. I've heard all of you guys, right? This isn't a fun meeting for me to stand up here and talk to you, right? I don't do this for fun. You know, but I try and do the best we can for Pennington County, and I try and do my best every day. So I hear what you guys are saying, and I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna get your name. I didn't catch it at the beginning, but I appreciate everything that. You don't need to make me feel this small. That's pretty tough to do. I got pretty thick skin, and you probably can do it, but I wanna hear what you guys have to say, and I'm gonna take that back, and we're gonna adjust these maps, right? It's not what I say goes, right? I know that everybody has heard that from predecessors or whatever, but I try my best to let these guys handle what they need to handle, right? And that's why, I don't know who called today on Bigfoot, but I told them, or Trask, but I said, have you called Colton? And the answer was no, right? So then they called Colton and something happened, right? So I'm not out here every day. Colton's the man that's out here every day. He's gonna live here at some point, maybe. Can find a house. Anybody got a house for sale? I tried, Cole. So. I don't know. Okay, Jeff?
My name is Jeff Wilson, and I live almost the end of Wilson Road, my brother Frank is at the end. We've been on maintenance unofficially for 3 years. We've got project out, we've got. But that's us, 1 lane road, it's been that way for 4 years.
It's gonna change, ask him.
Oh, I know, but. And as far as labor and as far as weed removal, that's the mail carrier.
You'd have to jump up to look over.
Well, I 100%, and again, I apologize at the beginning of the meeting, we are behind on mowing, and Colton and I had a conversation about that today, we're gonna pull the truck off of Sage Creek, we're gonna get him mowing, we're a month behind on getting our mowers going, and I apologize, that's my fault.
I think what the big deal is here, Joe, is you get somebody, we're having a meeting actually involved, and we're all communicating with you. Not everybody can go to Rapid to a county commissioner meeting.
Absolutely.
One of my guys is I called Travis here a few days ago about this meeting. Travis is our representative for our District 5. Four, sorry.
That's okay.
But and what did I say? I said, why didn't you contact somebody in this community? We all know each other. Everybody knows who I am. And I know everybody in this deal. I said, you did not have to call everybody, but you should contact somebody. And you said it was on the website and the paper. That's all.
No, what else did I say?
I said, you need to be government for the people.
No, what else did I say? What was the first thing I said?
You said, Joe.
Did Joe call? Because I asked Joe whenever this is going on.
What is your job as our commissioner?
Not just his job, I called,
Not good.
I called a couple people,
But
put it on site, so they could.
And Debbie, I appreciate that, but you are our commissioner.
That, people say that, but it's not true, all 5 are your commissioners.
All five.
But
People
you
say that to me,
represent
not
our
wrong.
side of the county. Only thing you had to do is contact one of us. And when I found out about it, I contacted everybody I knew. The only thing I said was we had to make 1 phone call. So what we are all worried about is when you guys try to get this ordinance through or whatever, that it's gonna be in the paper on the website. Well, I can guarantee you not very many people look in the paper or the website, just from the communication that we have.
So,
I agree. But then I don't want, I do newspaper and all that.
So, and if, I called Jen Kirschner, I talked to Jiggs O'Connell, and when Jen told me, Chance, I'm gonna throw you under the bus for a minute, but when Jen told me that Chance had already called, I knew Chance had it handled, because I knew Chance was gonna get everybody here.
I got that chance.
Yeah,
Well-
I only knew it from Zeb, I didn't know it.
Well, I knew when you knew it, we would have the people here that needed to know.
But it's just a general,
Fine.
I appreciate it, I do, I really do, because I wanna hear from all of you.
I have one
Well,
question.
I didn't know that he hadn't made any calls, I just want to
Okay, guys, let's talk about the road and not how.
Anyways.
We're here to listen
The
to
man
you.
behind
That's
us
issues.
stood up first, so let me get him, and then I'll get to you. Yes, sir.
I'm BJ Dart, I haul fuel for with Crown Oil, I own it, and I probably travel, I'd say 7 or 8 counties. And I mean, in my opinion, I think what you need to do is figure out your budget to make them all major roads. I mean, no minimum, no maintenance.
And that's why they are-
I'm traveling every day.
Yep.
Every day. And there's some places I go, there isn't housing. And I know what driving down no maintenance road. So I mean, I think if you go to no maintenance, them roads are just gonna not exist. And I mean, I don't know how, I mean, you would, I mean, that's gonna be one concern.
Yeah, if you would, I mean, leave your name and we can, there's gonna be another meeting, I can guarantee you that.
Cause I mean, honestly, the roads they're not tremendous right now. I mean, I hate seeing the over, really.
Right, and I agree, they're not tremendous up in Hill City either. You know, the gravel quality here is far better than the gravel quality in the hills, because all we have is limestone. And that limestone just deteriorates damn bad. I mean, it's not just a wall issue, it's countywide.
I think they should all be voting.
Okay, first,
My question is our end of the county suffering because of new developments on the west there?
I would say no. We're spending, if you look at Sage Creek, we're spending probably upwards of $1 million by the time it's all said and done in wages and contractor costs and all the stuff to get it upgraded to a hard surface road. So, I
So
mean,
he's paying for the dirt, is government paying for very old dirt to get dug out?
so they did not pay for it, but they did assist us in its removal. I don't know how much they have for the entirety of the removal.
So it's costing us a pile of money for them, they're on your road.
Unfortunately, yes. And I apologize, you had a question.
You guys have a number for the snow removal, how much that is budgeted and figured out per road going north? I know you said mileage, I know Babcock hasn't had snow removal in several years. So how much of that is now at our expense wanting to be no maintenance? How much of that budget is being used for roads that aren't actually getting snow removal?
Well, that number that you're seeing is actual cost of what it costs us to do snow removal throughout the county and then each division. That's actual hard cost, of what was coded to snow removal. So
Is the Sage Creek thing actual asphalt, or is it the base one thing that Creighton Road has,
it's still,
a modified version of that?
it's got asphalt millings that we're hauling currently. And then we hauled a bunch of material out of Talking Pit to make sure we had, so Creighton Road, what we ran into, and that was our first experience with base one. We didn't core the road, so we didn't know how much material we had there, right, which mistake number one, right? This- Not necessarily a mistake, but thing that happened, number two was, we got 2.5 inches of rain right after they got done, and it flooded that road, and it just washed that material out and made it super soft. So that's why we came back and did it again. So to answer your question, it's going to be the same thing, but hopefully we've learned. We did the same thing on Rochford last year, and when we added millings to it, it turned out a hell of a lot better than it did up on Creighton. So it was a new experiment for us. So yes, we made some mistakes up there. Were you involved in that debacle that night, or weren't you here yet?
I was not involved, I was here.
Yeah. So
Bill, what's the lifespan,
of the base one,
the expected lifespan?
5 to 6 years is what they say. But hopefully with what we're doing down here on Sage Creek, we're gonna base stabilize it. We're gonna put a prime on it, which is an MC70. Basically acts as an asphalt. It penetrates in down into that gravel surface and solidifies it. And then we'll put a chip seal over it this year, and we'll come back and we'll chip seal it again next year.
What's the total cost for 1 mile of base one, once it's chip sealed?
About, once it's chip sealed. So the base one, I think it was $40,000 to $45,000 per mile. But that was with Magwater figured in there, because with the base one, you gotta lock that top of the fines in. So it probably around the $30,000 mark for base one per mile. And then the chip seal, our cost is around $30,000 to $35,000 a mile, depending on the cost of oil that year.
So you're gonna have 65,000 per mile in it roughly. What's your cost to maintain a gravel road for 5 years for 1 mile?
So cost, and this is probably several years old, $5,500 per mile per year. But the problem with Sage Creek Road is it's 400 cars a day in the summertime,
I understand.
and you can't successfully maintain it, you know, you can, right? But has anybody here that lives on Sage Creek? But, I mean, it's pretty tough to maintain that much traffic on the gravel road. It's just,
That's fine.
so,
And just for that to be clear, it's 2.5 times more expensive to have a base one road for 5 years than a second gravel road.
but that's just, and what I was referring to, the 5 to 6 years is if we don't chip seal.
Okay.
Once we
What
chip,
should be maintained though?
what's
That
that?
can be maintained, it was being maintained, but every seventh is the oldest road in the county.
Well, it was being maintained, but to the extent that it should be, probably not. And the traffic destroys, it. So,
You're telling me my road don't need maintained as good as Sage Street, you're having a hard time convincing me of that.
well, so, I mean, the book says, and mind you, the book is often wrong, but 150 to 200 cars a day, you get much over that, you're pretty much peeing in the wind, trying to maintain.
I think your little people down around the road is big material. I think that is. I don't think that should have any bearing on what you're doing here with our road down here.
Well, that's
How
data.
much- I think the frequency of travel is irrelevant. The fact
Why
is,
is it irrelevant?
because it's seasonal. It is so important for when you do travel. And not only that, but when you're paying your taxes, you're paying for the ability to use the road. Doesn't matter how much you use it. It's not like I get taxed less because he uses it more or vice versa.
Well, it's the data, right? That's the data gives us, that's, I disagree with that. Anyway,
When you do a study like that, you can affect the outcome of the study by the time you put the counters up.
100%,
Okay,
absolutely.
but here's an example.
It is.
Big White
It is.
School, which is on 222nd Street, right? Now going to be a no maintenance road. Don't live on it.
I didn't know there was a school on it.
There was, not anymore.
Okay.
School
On 222nd, I took it as an active school.
The counters went up.
He just said it
Middle of
wasn't.
August. Okay,
I didn't hear the count, what?
the counters went up in August,
Okay.
okay? This is school August. Counters went off right before school started, so. What it looks like to me is, well, hey, I don't wanna maintain this road. So here's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put these counters up in August, and there's no travel on. And then in September, when there's travel every day, 2 times a day for 5, 6 families.
And I apologize
And
that
there we go. We don't.
I 100%
There
understand what you're saying, but I can guarantee that's not the case. I mean, it's, we don't,
From my end,
I understand what it looks like when you're in, but that's.
well, that's, it should be irrelevant. The frequency of travel, guys, is not, I mean, and not only that, but you're gonna have a really hard time convincing anybody. to
Don't
do
they
it
put the
less than
counters,
this.
don't they put the counters more than once, so if they don't just put it in August, don't they put it in like July, don't they put it in October, they don't just put it once a year in one spot.
Well,
So decide that when they get it out.
Last one on,
I mean, why didn't we get to say that, really? If you wanna know.
You're pulling up the website, right?
Hey,
May 26th, no, my neighbor and I were talking about it.
let's put it out and let's see how. the
26th,
frequency-
23rd.
Right, so there, so the counts go up, our traffic sign manager creates a schedule in March or April. And they're arbitrary, right? He picks it, dates, and he schedules them in clusters. It's not necessarily around school or harvest or anything like that. We're just trying to look at what it's getting in a day, right? I understand that there's harvest traffic, there's school traffic, there's.
The last one on Babcock Road was May 26th, 2022, after school. was out.
After school got out.
Yeah, we drive on that 4 times a day.
But if we go back and look at the one before that, it could be early May.
Is there any way that you could, once snow's done and you've got the roads kind of tuned up, maybe April? Until, when it starts getting cold and end of October, Halloween. Is there any way you could do an extended count for maybe months?
The problem is, especially on a gravel road, the tubes,
It's irrelevant,
Put it out for a year.
but why? Why
we
does
could
that
possibly
matter?
do it with our radar counter, but with the tubes, I would say no, and I don't think the radar counter battery is going to last that long. I don't know how long it'll last. But I hear what you're saying, and I'll check to see if it's a possibility, but what I was trying to say with the tubes on a gravel road, if they get moved or rocks get moved on them, they puncture them, they operate off of air, so then at some point our count's no good, right? I will disagree with that.
To not make it irrelevant, I think what he's getting at, or not just taking your own piece of data.
And it's not.
The big picture here is to look at everything that's going on, and while it may not have real great numbers, I guess it's some data. But like we talked about earlier, during the busy season would be the time you want to target what you're gonna do. And you're gonna get that from talking to people like us. And when you come up with plans like this and say no maintenance, you're gonna catch fire. And if it
You can ask
turns
them.
into that, you think you get it now, just wait. When the roads are really bad, people are really angry, this is gonna be mild compared to how mad people will be. So let's find a good solution that either reallocates the resources you have to use them in a better way, or find a way to redistribute your budget that gets the roads taken care of without having everybody on your head on a pipe. Cause then guys say you're the guy,
And that's
right?
why I'm here.
so I mean, you're the one's gonna get yelled at, but
I get yelled
at
at.
the end of the day, you can't just take the numbers off the count. You gotta look at everything that's going on and what time of year it is.
It's one piece of that, right? It's
Very
one
much.
piece of the equation.
Very much people here in this room, I just heard you say to all of us that because this guy wants his house at the end of this road, your road has to go away. And that's very much the feeling that we got sitting here.
Well, I apologize. It's not, that's not what we've been, right? It's
That's
not.
everyday life. What about an EMS situation? What if your child was bit by a rattlesnake,
I mean, we can what if all day, right?
right? But it's stuff that we think about all the time, living where we do, when you say you're gonna cut off maintenance on our roads.
The good example for this, just for the sake of conversation. For an emergency call to the end of Shaney, the expected EMS time is 2.5 hours roughly back to rapid. That's absolutely not gonna fly. I mean, just with the condition of the road. When this happened, not that long ago, word of the ambulance was, put it on the bird because the roads are so bad, it'll beat the hell out of her on the way there. What's that tell you? The guy that bounced down in the ambulance, that was that bad, that he didn't want to provide service, put him on a bird instead. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying your guys are doing a bad job, some of them do a really good job in some areas, I know some people have gripes, I have a couple too in a couple places. But what I'm saying is that if your roads aren't gonna be up to par for that kind of stuff, you're really missing the mark here. We're paying the money to have this, and it's the only thing we get back, we don't care about the libraries or the other stuff that the county uses tax money for. This end of the world, the roads are the big thing that are important to us. And they should be in good shape to be usable.
And that's why we're here having this conversation. I'll reiterate.
If or when a lot of these roads become minimum, what if you need gravel in place or two, or you need a culvert replaced? Is that still gonna happen?
There are minimum maintenance that will still happen.
That will still happen.
And if there's no maintenance, then what happens?
If there's no maintenance, that means no maintenance.
Forget it.
So when the culvert south of my house goes out, just for example, which would cut off a business and God knows how many farmers. What happens to go there, everything to that other 2.5 miles north of that culvert?
It would be on you.
Then are
And your
you,
roadway,
are you
it's your
liable?
county road,
This
but
is
it's
not
on
our
me.
driveway. This is the
This is the county road, that's
It's
what's
a section
happening.
line, right? It's a section line that's going to a.
It's a
Babcock.
standing road right now. That's
But
what I'm
I
asking.
don't think it's on our system.
Right around all the time. It's on your system, it's on your map, you maintain it now, no, it's not on your system.
You might have my roads.
Okay, but if a road is on your system, let's take that equation, take this conversation, and you have X number of miles behind it that are behind that blockage, the road's washed out. Is it the county's approach said, well, you're on your own, good luck?
If it's a,
Are they liable then for
Not
that?
because what you're saying.
If they fix the, if they fix the culvert
no.
on a no maintenance road, they're not in, so they fix the culvert on no
No, the
maintenance.
county will maintain liability on the no maintenance road.
We don't maintain liability on it as.
That's what we're asking, what happens when some major happens, so no maintenance road beyond that,
Our
No,
only
they're not.
way out, our only way, there's no other road anywhere.
Boy.
Four kids in school, in a business, right?
I don't agree, but that's not, you're not the only person. That's that, we have
No,
roads all over the county.
no, but you're proposing no maintenance on a.
Right, and there's other people's routes that are, it's their only way in or out, right?
You think there'll be any less happy?
No, they're gonna be the same.
Parking, you imagine if
And then it's.
I appreciate it.